Two soldiers died in the same field in France in August 1944. They died within minutes of each other, in the specific chaos of the specific advance that the specific August of 1944 produced in the specific corner of the specific French countryside where their unit was operating. They died close enough together that the specific men responsible for the specific graves registration, the specific exhausted, overworked men whose specific job was to process the specific dead in the specific conditions of the specific active campaign, process them together in the specific sequence that the specific proximity of the specific bodies produced. Their dog tags were switched. Nobody knew. Not then. Not for 27 years. The first soldier's name was Raymond. He was 23 years old, from a small town in Ohio, the second of 4 children, a carpenter's apprentice before the war who had enlisted in 1942 and who had crossed the Channel in June 1944 as part of the specific enormous movement of the specific enormous force that the specific Normandy invasion had required. He was, by every account of the people who served alongside him, a competent and well-liked soldier, not the specific remarkable one, not the specific one whose specific qualities set him apart in the specific dramatic way, but the specific reliable one, the specific steady one, the specific one you wanted in the specific foxhole, because he was a specific one who kept his head. The second soldier's name was Franklin. He was 24, from Pennsylvania, an only child, a schoolteacher before the war who had been drafted in 1943 and who had arrived in France in July 1944 as part of the specific reinforcements that the specific campaign required after the specific initial landings. He had been with a specific unit for 6 weeks when August came and the specific advance began, and the specific field became the specific place where both of them died. They had known each other for 6 weeks. They were not close friends. 6 weeks is not enough for specific close friendship, though the specific conditions of the specific campaign compressed the specific ordinary timeline of the specific friendship considerably. They were the specific particular kind of acquaintances that the specific combat unit produces. Men who know each other's habits and whose instincts are calibrated to each other in the specific practical way that the specific shared danger requires, without necessarily knowing each other's histories or families or the specific particular lives they had come from. They died within minutes of each other, in the same field. The graves registration team processed them in sequence. The dog tags were switched, not deliberately, not through any specific failure of the specific individual attention, but through the specific accumulated exhaustion and the specific overwhelming volume of the specific work and the specific conditions of the specific August afternoon. It was a specific kind of mistake that the specific kind of conditions produces, made by the specific kind of people doing the specific kind of impossible work in the specific kind of impossible circumstances. Raymond was buried under Franklin's name. Franklin was buried under Raymond's name. 2 telegrams went to 2 families. Raymond's family in Ohio received a telegram saying that Franklin had died. Franklin's family in Pennsylvania received a telegram saying that Raymond had died. Both families grieved. Both families buried empty caskets at home. Both families moved forward in the specific incomplete way that families move forward after specific loss, holding the specific shape of the specific person where the specific person used to be, talking about him in the specific present tense that gradually becomes a specific past tense, keeping the specific particular things that the specific particular grief requires keeping. Raymond's mother kept his room. Franklin's father kept his books, the specific schoolteacher's library of the specific young man who had been going to spend his life in a classroom and who had spent it instead in France. Both families visited the specific grave in Normandy when visiting became possible in the post-war years. Raymond's family standing at Franklin's grave. Franklin's family standing at Raymond's grave. Both families mourning the right person in the wrong place without knowing it. This continued for 27 years. Franklin's brother, his name was George, 2 years older, the specific only surviving child of the specific Pennsylvania family after Franklin's death, was a specific person who could not leave the specific question alone. He had visited the Normandy grave in 1952, the first time the specific family had been able to make the specific trip. It had stood at the cross that bore his brother's name, and he had looked at it for a long time, and he had felt the specific thing that the specific bereaved person feels at the specific grave of the specific loved one. The specific particular combination of the specific grief and the specific closure and the specific particular permanence of the specific stone that says this is where it ended. He had also felt something else. Something he could not immediately name and did not try to name for several years because the specific naming of the specific thing required him to take it seriously, and taking it seriously required him to follow wherever it led. And he was not certain he was prepared to follow wherever it led. The something else was this. The description of the body in the casualty report did not match his brother, not dramatically, not in the specific obvious way that would have produced a specific immediate alarm, in the specific small way. A detail about the specific height, a note about the specific coloring. That could easily be explained by the specific conditions of the specific identification in the specific field, by the specific imprecision of the specific wartime record-keeping, by the specific dozen specific innocent explanations that the specific reasonable person finds before the specific less reasonable explanation. George found all the specific innocent explanations. He used them for 15 years. He told himself the specific record was imprecise. He told himself the specific conditions of the specific field identification explained the specific discrepancy. He told himself he was a specific grieving brother constructing the specific reason to doubt the specific thing he did not want to be true, which was that his brother was dead. In 1967, he stopped finding innocent explanations sufficient. He wrote to the Army. The specific letter he sent was the specific careful letter of the specific person who understands that the specific claim he is making is a specific extraordinary claim that requires a specific extraordinary evidence, and who is therefore presenting a specific question as precisely and as modestly as possible while still asking the specific question directly. He said, "I have a concern about the identification of my brother's remains. I would like to understand the specific basis for the specific identification that was made in August 1944. I am not making an accusation. I am asking a question." The Army responded with a specific bureaucratic response to the specific institution, asked to revisit a 23-year-old decision in the specific absence of the specific compelling new evidence that would justify the specific reopening of the specific closed file. They confirmed the identification. They provided the specific documentation that supported the specific confirmation. They suggested, gently and not unkindly, that the specific concerns of the specific bereaved family member were understandable and that the specific record was nonetheless accurate. George wrote again and again. Between 1967 and 1971, he wrote 14 letters, each one more specific than the last. Each one incorporating the specific additional research he had done in the specific available records, building a specific case for the specific question he was asking with the specific patience and the specific persistence of the specific man who cannot leave the specific thing alone. In 1971, he found Raymond's family, not through the Army, through the specific particular research that the specific particular persistence had produced. He had been looking at the specific records of the specific unit in the specific August, and he found Raymond's name, and he found a specific detail about Raymond that matched the specific detail about his brother that the specific original report had attributed to the wrong person. He had found the specific Ohio address through the specific available records. He drove to Ohio. He knocked on the door. Raymond's sister answered. Her name was Margaret. She was in her 40s. The specific Ohio woman who had spent 27 years with her brother's name on a grave in Normandy and an empty box in the local cemetery, and the specific particular shape of the specific particular grief that the specific 27 years had settled into. George said, "My name is George. My brother Franklin died in France in August 1944 in the same unit as your brother Raymond. I have reason to believe that there may have been an error in the identification of both their remains. I think our brothers may be buried in each other's graves." Margaret looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "Come in." What followed, the specific 4 years of the specific bureaucratic process that the specific two families navigated together between 1971 and 1975, was a specific particular ordeal that the specific particular situation required. The Army did not immediately accept the specific claim. The specific reopening of the specific closed file required the specific documentation that the specific two families had to assemble from the specific available sources, the specific wartime records, the specific medical records, the specific particular details about each soldier that the specific families held, and that the specific Army records did not contain. The two families worked together. George and Margaret became, in the specific years of the specific process, the specific unexpected friends that the specific unexpected situation had produced. People connected by an error that had been made before either of them had any control over it, and who were now spending 4 years correcting it together. They wrote letters together. They made phone calls together. They drove to Washington together, twice, to sit across tables from the specific officials with the specific authority to authorize the specific process. In 1975, the Army confirmed the error. Raymond was in Franklin's grave in Normandy. Franklin was in Raymond's grave in Normandy. Both graves were in the specific Normandy American Cemetery. Both corrections required the specific formal process of the specific military identification and the specific formal redocumentation and the specific formal remarking of the specific graves. Both families traveled to Normandy in the autumn of 1975 for a specific ceremony at which both crosses were remarked with the correct names. They stood the graves together, Raymond's family at Raymond's grave, Franklin's family at Franklin's grave, both for the first time in 31 years. The specific October light of the specific Normandy autumn was a specific particular light that George described in interviews afterward as the specific most clarifying light he had ever stood in. The specific light of the specific right place, standing at the specific right grave, with the specific right name on the specific right stone. Margaret placed flowers at Raymond's cross, her brother's cross, correctly marked now, the wrong name finally gone. She said afterward that the specific act of placing flowers at the specific right grave for the specific first time felt different from every previous visit to the specific wrong grave, even though the specific difference was invisible to anyone who did not know the specific history. The flowers were in the same Normandy earth. The cross was the same white stone. But the name was right, and the rightness of the name was a specific thing that made the specific difference between the specific morning that had been misdirected for 31 years and the specific morning that finally knew where it was. The Ohio grave was also corrected. The headstone that had borne Raymond's name for 31 years was re-engraved with Franklin's name. The specific Pennsylvania schoolteacher who'd been buried in Ohio under the wrong name since 1944. Franklin's family arranged for him to be repatriated to Pennsylvania. Raymond's family kept the Ohio grave, their brother, correctly identified, finally in the right place. George and Margaret remained in contact for the rest of their lives. They were not, in the specific ordinary sense, friends. They came from different states, different backgrounds, different particular worlds that the specific particular error had connected without otherwise intersecting. But they wrote to each other. They called on the anniversaries, the specific August anniversary of the specific field, the specific October anniversary of the specific Normandy correction. They sent each other the specific small acknowledgments of the specific shared history that the specific shared history required. George died in 1998. Margaret died in 2003. Their children know the story. The grandchildren know the story. It is a specific particular family mythology of both the specific Ohio family and the specific Pennsylvania family. The specific story of the specific two soldiers and the specific switched dog tags and the specific 27 years and the specific for more years and the specific October afternoon in Normandy when both crosses finally had the right names. Raymond's cross in Normandy has the right name now. Franklin's cross in Normandy has the right name now. The specific October light falls on both of them, the same way it falls on every other cross in every other row. But the names are right. After 31 years, the names are right. That is a full accounting of the war soldier buried under the wrong name, and the family who fought 31 years to find him.